Good morning, guys. Welcome to Tuesday, April 7th. I'm Marshall Burtcher, and if you don't know me, I help codependents rediscover happiness, help them be happy again after narcissistic abuse and codependency by leading them through my three-step process of aligning them with their true value, genuine voice, and their real vision. It brings them back to themselves, so they trust themselves, know, love, and like themselves, and actually live who they are. So that's what I do. I've been doing this for 12 years. My students and clients tend to see results within 4 weeks and have a substantial change in their happiness and their sense of peace and security within 13 weeks. And within a year, they are living a very different life, a life where they feel connected and have healthy, vibrant relationships. Oh, okay. So this morning, we're talking about this concept. I also have to share this to the community. The community is a place where if you're looking for love, clarity, real healing, understanding, that's what we do in the community. You're not alone in this journey, and we're here to help you, give you the connection, the witness, the shelter you're seeking in the storm, especially when it comes to abuse, neglect, codependency, narcissists, all that fun stuff. You can join us free. It's free. You get these trainings and more in the community. The link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And thank you, guys, for showing up. I've got to share this to the community, or they're going to be like, why aren't you there, Marshall? Why aren't you helping us out? Come on, dude. Okay, so that's been shared. So today is an interesting topic. I was inspired by a session I had, a one-on-one session I had with a private client this morning about self-trust, and then the myriad of things we're seeing on the internet about conspiracy theories and people following people leaders and gurus and stuff like that. And so the way I titled it is, I'm not your guru, you are your guru. And this is where we start with self-trust. Guys, we have a tribal mentality. Humans like a leader. They like someone to follow. And the tendency is to imbue the leader with special properties, like they're infallible, or their word is the truth, that kind of thing. And when I'm working with my students, I'm working with you guys, with the community, if I'm working with a client, it's not about me. I am not your guru. I don't have your truth. I don't have your answers. I have a process that has been proven by the results it creates on a consistent basis to be effective in helping people find their truth, know their truth, live that truth, and be loyal and committed to themselves. It's one of the biggest challenges we have, especially with codependence, because codependency has a function called external orientation, and then this other function called enmeshment. So external orientation means I am seeking myself, approval, love, whatever it might be, permission, validity, outside myself. That means someone else is responsible for making me feel a certain way. We all do this to some degree. We're looking for someone else to give us answers, to give us value, to give us wisdom, to give us back. Kids look to their parents to know who they are. And with codependency, we're actually seeking that experience. We're going to get a lot more of those dings if I don't mute this. All right. So we have to individuate or differentiate ourselves from other people and come to start knowing ourselves. We have to be able to identify our own voice. Okay? Value, voice, and vision are the 3 steps that actually heal codependency, because technically it doesn't heal codependency. He can't heal codependency. And it might sound weird, but codependency is the result of being discarded or the fear of being thrown away. And that's created through a specific kind of relationship called the consumer supply relationship, where you're love bombed, devalued, and discarded by the person that's using you for their supply, their own sense of identity and value. So back to self-trust. When we come into understanding our own self-trust, we come back into connecting back with us because we've differentiated ourselves from our parents or from an authority. We've retrieved our authority from them. So when I work with clients and students, I'm like, what do you think? What are your feelings? What's your truth in this? What's your experience in this? What evidence speaks to you? And where does that point to? We want to think skeptically in this so that, now, word about skeptical thinking, that doesn't mean cynicism, and that doesn't mean necessarily doubt. What it means is question. It means let's live in the question and understand what might be aware in us right now about things that are going on in the world or going on within us that are affecting us. This allows us to be in tune with us rather than responding to things in our world with the programming that someone else has given us. Programming would be, I tell you to do X and then you do the X. Or someone told you to feel good about this and shameful about that, and then your brain's like, okay, I feel good about that and shameful about that. That's programming. We all have it. We all deal with it. We're all admired. And the brain, it's a natural function of the brain to absorb other people's stuff and make it its own. But we need to be mindful of that so that we can tune back into us, back into our own knowing. Because that's the genesis of self-trust. This is where we start to know and understand ourself versus another person. Because codependency has that enmeshment, right? So we have the external orientation. I'm looking to somebody else for permission to be, do, or have something. Then we have this enmeshment, which means what they feel, I feel. What they believe, I believe. So there's too much sameness, not enough otherness in it. And that separation into otherness allows us to discern our boundaries, to discern what our happiness, our joy, our misery, our purpose, our identity, our own path in our lives. Now, our path is going to have similarities to other people. That's not enmeshment. When sameness shows up, it's like, I am this way and they are this way. There's a distinction between you and them and you. And if you can maintain that, especially emotionally, because codependents tend to have a very bad habit of absorbing other people's emotions and making them their own. If we can discern between our own feelings, I feel this way about their feelings, versus, okay, I feel the same way they do, or I'm feeling their feelings, we're able to then know ourselves. And when we know ourselves, then we can discern that voice and then follow the voice. And in that process, we begin to see the 7 elements of trust start to show up. So there's this concept called the anatomy of trust that was developed by Brene Brown. And it has 7 qualities to it, 7 elements. And it's an acronym that says braving. Okay, so B for boundaries. How does this respect my boundaries? How do I respect theirs? How are they respecting mine? R for reliability. How reliable is this? How am I reliable with myself? How are others reliable with me? How am I reliable with them? A for accountability. Am I taking ownership of the shit I do? Or are they taking ownership of the shit they do? How do they respond to that? How do they respond when I'm confronted with something I've done? How do they respond when they are confronted with something they've done? V for vault, that's privacy, keeping what's private. And then I for integrity, am I keeping my word? And then I don't keep my word, because that will eventually happen. How am I reliably accountable? And then non-judgment. We're not approaching this with a condemnation point of view. We can disagree. We can say that we don't agree with things. We can say that something is, in fact, healthy or unhealthy based on the results it produces. But we're not condemning the character of the individual at that element. And then G for generosity. This is positive, warm regard. When this comes to positive, warm regard means I give myself the benefit of the doubt. So when it comes to self-trust, it's about, am I respecting my own boundaries? Do I even know what those boundaries are? Am I willing to acknowledge those boundaries? And boundaries are a function of understanding your voice, your value, and your vision, the things that produce happiness. Because I don't look at boundaries as a defense mechanism, as a prevention of something. Boundaries are designed to promote something in my mind. They are the path towards my own personal fulfillment, well-being, and happiness. So I build boundaries based on core values and innate value systems out of the happiness strategy. And so as I've approached boundaries that way, it's made a lot of things very simple. because now it's not about somebody else not doing something, which is the typical concept of boundaries. It's about me doing or not doing something in response to what's going on around me. So I don't need somebody or some other person, place, and thing to be a certain way anymore. I show up a certain way and make decisions based on what the experience is. And that is where, this idea of self-trust and having skeptical thinking comes in. Because if I'm willing to live in the question, then I can understand what the truth is about what's showing up, rather than leading through it with a conclusion and trying to force things to either conform to the conclusion or ultimately deceiving myself. Because fundamentally, human beings have a real struggle accessing what is real. We have a lot of beliefs and filters and traumas and desires and fantasies that get in there and mix things up. So this is a very simple way of getting access to what's going on. Because when I can respect my boundaries, I can have integrity, I can hold myself accountable, and I'm guided by my own core principles, things like that, I am able to respond to life in a more honest way that's aligned with me. And that means I can trust me. I can trust my own awareness to go, okay, I'm aware of this thing. What does this mean to me? How does this align with the things that matter to me? Now, self-trust also doesn't mean I'm right. See, a lot of people confuse self-trust with I am right. I'm always right. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has to do with I'm willing to discover reality for myself. I can trust myself to understand the perceptions and experiences I'm having and work through them. So self-trust doesn't mean, oh, I have this perception that is truth. Self-trust means that is perception I'm going to work to understand. I can trust my ability and my senses to understand it, while also, and I like putting, again, living back in the question, I have the assumption things are this way, what else is possible? And if there is a change that eventually shows up in my awareness about whatever the thing is I'm dealing with, then I can alter or update my awareness of it, my consciousness of it, my take on it, or my opinion of it. This allows me to stay out of the big trap where we tend to make facts out of beliefs. Because facts are things that are discernible and objective, like this is a pen, it exists, right? It's just what it is. That would be a fact. Gravity is a fact. Because it happens, you can demonstrate it. But the belief around my pen that this is the most important pen in the world, guys, is total bullshit. It's just my opinion. It has no objective evidence to it. Unless I could demonstrate that this is somehow the most important pen in the world. I don't know what kind of criteria would establish that. But this allows us to think skeptically and openly and curiously, because I'm a huge fan of curiosity. And for the codependent mind, curiosity is the big liberator, because now we don't have to be perfect, we don't have to be right, we don't have to worry about being wrong either, because we have the right to be wrong, and we have the right to update our awareness based on our understanding of our experience and our own take on reality. This allows us to align more and more with self-trust, because self-trust is the capability to... I just had it, because that's a cool little definition on it. And my brain's like, wee! So self-trust, my take on it is, I can rely on myself to discover the truth, to discover reality, and I can rely on myself to update my awareness of that if new information comes about. So self-trust has nothing to do with being right or being wrong. It has everything to do with understanding. And you are brilliant in that way. Now, you don't have to trust me on that. You don't have to take my word. You can look at your own life and you can see how you have mastered things and discovered and understood things like walking and eating and talking and comprehending what people say. It's a big deal, guys. See, in my point of view, we are built-in explorers and discoverers. We're excellent at discovering things. We're really bad at knowing things. We come to conclusions based on what the evidence leads us to conclude a lot of the times, but a lot of the times we have things that we conclude are true and then try to find evidence, cherry pick that way. And that tends to get us into really bad loops. One of the most profound loops in this regard, guys, is the codependent fantasy, right? The codependent fantasy says, this person that I'm with is really good and really loving and really wonderful because of all the grandiose and love bombing things he's done. Well, he was really nice to me. You know, he bought me this thing. He pays all the bills. But you know, we're omitting like the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse that's going on in the background prominently. You know, the codependent fantasy is an excellent demonstration of trying to take a belief and make a fact out of it. It's the codependent has a conclusion that says people are innately good, and this person is innately good. I can see the good in them. I can see their potential. And then it leaps to another conclusion that says I can bring that potential out in them. I can help them heal, that kind of thing. And that's total fantasy. You don't know those things. Those are perceptions within you that you're putting onto them. It's a projection. What's real is the pattern of behavior showing up with this individual you're dealing with. And if they're behaving in abusive, neglectful ways, if they're behaving in abuse at all, get the hell out of the relationship. Abuse, to me, is a zero tolerance policy. That's my take on it. Obviously, I want you to make your take on it too. But for me, it's a zero tolerance policy. But then there's the neglect, and there's persistent patterns of behavior of avoiding accountability or integrity or reliability, keeping their word, being honest. These are very serious problems because they undermine the fundamental foundation of a healthy relationship, which is built on trust. That's just how they function, right? So codependent fantasy is an expression of this problem. So guys, when we become our own guru, we connect to our wisdom within us, our value, our voice, our vision, then we can start to communicate and connect with other peers, other people out there, and have reason and discussion and exploration of things that are going on. This is a big deal because this is where we find our tribe. This is where we find people who are aligned with the same kind of values and interests and passions and energies that we are. This is where we find home, or that belonging that we've been seeking for so long. But this does require us to be aligned with our value, voice, and vision. Now, in 2 weeks, we're launching the happiness strategy. The happiness strategy is where I lead you through a 5-step process that teaches you how to know and be your value, know and follow your voice, and know and live your vision. This 3-step process allows, or 5-step process, 5-step, the nurturing value practice, leads you into those things, which liberates you from codependency and connects you back to who you are, so that you can know, love, and live who you are easily and automatically. This fundamentally replaces your need for codependency. You end up trusting yourself more, knowing what you want and what you don't want, how to say yes and no without the fear, without the guilt, without the shame. You become free of the shame that you likely believe is who you are right now, especially if you're fresh out of a narcissistic abuse relationship, or a relationship with an addict, or someone who's highly avoidant, things like that. The happiness strategy is the solution to connecting you back to you. So you know yourself, you love yourself, and you live who you are. So we start in 2 weeks. You can sign up for that. You need to click on the link above if you're on Facebook, below on YouTube. Take the master class and then enroll. Boom, you'll be set to go. Or you can PM me and we can set up a one-on-one chat, and I can lead you. We can discuss your situation, make sure it's appropriate for you, and get you set up and ready to go with that. So either way works. I'd be happy to have you in that class. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for being the badasses you are. Thank you for being the brilliance you be. Lean into trusting yourself. Lean into the wisdom that's within you and your awareness and your ability to discover and understand reality and know it for you, not because someone else says so. That includes me. I'm not your guru. You are. So when you're thinking what, a lot of times I have clients and students who are like, what would Marshall do? I want you to ask yourself the question, what would you do? What would your wisdom do? What's your value do? Tap into you. Okay. Stay safe, guys. Love you. And I will see you tomorrow.